2 years after he was arrested, we talking about Casanova, right? So 2 years after he was arrested for his connection to gang-related crimes and a racketeering case, Casanova has received his prison sentence.
Brooklyn-born rapper Casanova pleads guilty to federal racketeering and drug charges.
Everybody used to hit me like, Cas, do not fall victim. You ready to lose it all for somebody that really doesn't matter, that really is not who they say they are, but the world is jacking it.
Because he's trolling you.
Yeah.
And you don't want to fall victim.
The world is jacking it. I never once got on the Instagram and say, yo, never want to speak to him.
He a rap.
I don't care if he a rap.
Yeah.
You want me to tell you why?
Talk to me.
Because again, I knew this from the joint.
You knew he was gonna tell them.
I don't care.
It's not a surprise that nobody
talk all that man. I'm talking about all these rappers and all these fake gangsters, man. You go to the feds for Rico and they offer you 20 years and you're a millionaire. You're telling.
After serving a term of 15 years in prison, Casanova has revealed his feelings of isolation after being incarcerated. The United States government sentenced Casanova to 188 months in prison. On Tuesday, June 27th, District Judge Philip M. Halpern referred to him as a high-profile leader of a vicious street gang. The judge made this statement. It is not only that Caswell Sr. is a notorious recording artist, but he is also a prominent leader of a deadly street gang and a magnet for gang violence, according to the United States Department of Justice. The statement was made by attorney Damian Williams in a press release. At a crowded home party in Miami, Sr. fired a gun on himself, which resulted in a victim being gravely injured and had the potential to kill them, which in turn sparked a gunfight. It is also important to note that Senior's standing in the community played a significant role in the successful recruiting and expansion of Guerrilla Stone across the country. A total of 5 additional defendants have entered guilty pleas and are currently awaiting sentencing in the untouchable Guerrilla Stone Nation gang case. Casanova was the 12th defendant to be sentenced that was handed down in the case. After he was sentenced to 15 years in prison earlier this week, his girlfriend, Swaggy Jazzy, made a public declaration of her loyalty to him. According to a brief statement that Casanova shared with his followers, it would appear that he has quickly accepted the verdict that was handed down in his case. His writings used the phrase, "everything to the chin, nothing to the heart. I hope it will not be too much for you to comprehend. I get it now." She posted a message on her Instagram stories that read, "I love you, baby. This shite is going to be walked down." The music career and persona of Casanova have come to an end as a result of his guilty plea to federal racketeering and drug charges. The news that rapper Casanova had entered a guilty plea to federal racketeering and narcotics charges on May 12, 2024, sent shockwaves through the music industry when it was announced. It was a critical turning moment in the artist's life and career, and it brought an abrupt end to his artistic journey. The plea was a significant turning point. The legal issues that Casanova was facing, the charges that were brought against him, the influence that it had on his career, and the broader consequences that it had for the music industry are all explored in depth in this script. Caswell Sr., better known by his stage moniker Casanova, became a household sensation in the middle of the 2010s, thanks to his gritty, streetwise attitude and his raw lyrical material. Through the success of songs such as Don't Run and Set Trippin', he established himself as a prominent figure in the hip-hop scene, garnering a devoted fan base as well as praise from music critics. However, his life was entangled with actions that would eventually lead to his downfall, and these activities were taking place behind the scenes.
Talk all that I'm talking about all these rappers and all these fake gangsters, man. You go to the feds for Rico, and they offer you 20 years and you're a millionaire.
The accusations. In December of 2020, Casanova was taken into custody as part of a comprehensive indictment against the untouchable Guerrilla Stone Nation, which is a criminal organization that mostly operates in the state of New York. Among the 18 defendants named in the indictment were those accused of committing crimes such as homicide, robbery, fraud, and drug trafficking. Several charges were brought against Casanova, including the following. The allegation that Casanova was involved in the criminal actions of the gang, which included both violent acts and financial crimes, is referred to as the conspiracy to commit racketeering. Distribution of drugs, accusing him of being involved in the distribution of controlled substances, such as marijuana and cocaine, among other forms of controlled substances. Infractions involving weapons are those that pertain to the possession and use of firearms for the purpose of furthering the activities of the gang. Casanova recently provided an update on Twitter from his incarceration, in which he admitted that he is terrified of how loneliness brings me a twisted kind of comfort. The United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York, Damian Williams, made the announcement in June that the rapper known as So Brooklyn was handed a sentence of 188 months, which is about 15 years, for racketeering and narcotics crimes. This information was originally published by Revolt. According to Williams, Caswell Sr. is not only a notorious recording artist, but he is also a high-profile leader of a vicious street gang and a magnet for gang violence. Additionally, he is a magnet for gang violence. At a crowded home party in Miami, Sr. fired a gun on himself, which resulted in a victim being gravely injured and had the potential to kill them, which in turn sparked a gunfight. To add insult to injury, Sr.'s standing in the neighborhood was essential to the success of Gorilla Stone's recruitment efforts, and it spread across the country. The sentencing that was handed down today, in addition to the previous significant terms that have been handed down in this case, demonstrates once more that gang life is not worth it, and will almost certainly result in a significant amount of time spent behind bars. In the wake of the news, Casanova sent a word of encouragement to his devoted followers. As far as the chin is concerned, there is nothing to the heart. I get it now. I hope that doesn't go over your heads, the tweet said, revealing the name of his future album along with the title of the record itself. There are some things that cannot be taught. They need to be experienced. You never learn the most valuable lessons in life until you go through your own journey. He captioned the promotional trailer for the album that was posted on Instagram. Settlement of a plea. The allegations of racketeering and distribution of narcotics were brought against Casanova on May 12, 2024, and he entered a guilty plea. In his plea, he accepted that he was involved in the illicit activities of the gang. He acknowledged that he was involved in the trafficking of considerable quantities of drugs, and that he participated in violent events that were coordinated by the gang. If the defendant were to be found guilty at trial, the plea bargain was most likely a calculated maneuver to avoid a possible harsher penalty. Implications for Casanova's own career.
After a former New York City rapper who was awaiting sentencing on federal drug charges got slashed in a vicious altercation with another inmate.
Given that Casanova has entered a guilty plea, his career as a musician has been virtually terminated, at least for the foreseeable future. Several aspects of the immediate effects are as follows. Because of his guilty plea, Casanova is facing a significant prison sentence, which will prevent him from creating new music, performing, or interacting with his fans. This will result in a loss of freedom. Damage to reputation. His public image has been significantly ruined as a result of his participation with violent crime and drug trafficking, which has alienated followers and collaborators who may choose to separate themselves from the controversy. Financial consequences. It is highly possible that his financial status will be strained as a result of the legal bills, prospective fines, and loss of income from touring and song sales, respectively. Consequences that are more widespread for the music industry. The case of Casanova serves as a jarring illustration of the frequently convoluted connection that exists between hip-hop culture and the administrative system of law enforcement. There are a number of bigger implications that can be identified from this circumstance. Accountability of artists. The scenario highlights how important it is for artists to be aware of the associations they are a part of, as well as the potential legal ramifications that could result from their conduct. Due to the fact that they are public personalities, they are held to higher standards and that they must carefully negotiate both their personal and professional life. Responsibility of the industry. Record labels and management teams may reevaluate the manner in which they support and manage musicians who are known to have associations with illegal activities. This would require them to strike a balance between the attraction of authenticity and the necessary legal and ethical considerations. The genre of hip-hop has long been recognized as a music that accurately portrays the realities of street life, including the presence of criminal activity and violent acts. The failure of Casanova brings to light the importance of maintaining a conversation about the influence that these topics have on artists, as well as the audiences that they serve. The analysis of law. The plea bargain that Casanova has agreed to is a complicated legal procedure that will have substantial repercussions. Despite the fact that he has avoided the uncertainty of a trial by entering a guilty plea, he is still subject to harsh consequences. It has been suggested by legal experts that his collaboration with authorities, if any, could have an impact on the sentence that he receives. The obligatory minimum terms for his offenses, on the other hand, indicate that he will most likely spend a significant amount of time behind bars. Factors to consider when sentencing. When determining Casanova's sentence, the court will take into consideration a number of considerations, including the following. In terms of the severity of the crimes, the fact that the operations of the gang are both extensive and violent will be a significant factor that works against him. In light of the fact that he is a prominent member of the gang, his level of involvement and leadership within the organization will be subject to close examination. The possibility of Casanova cooperating with law enforcement could result in a reduction of his sentence if he gives significant assistance to the authorities. Influence on the family and the community. Casanova's legal issues transcend beyond his professional life and have an impact on his family as well as the neighborhood. When he is incarcerated, he will be separated from his loved ones for a period of time that could last for decades. In addition, because he was a well-known character in his town, his fall from grace serves as a cautionary tale about the aftermath of a life spent engaging in criminal activity. Reactions from the public and the media. In the immediate aftermath of the sentencing, Casanova was moved to a federal correctional facility. It was a mixture of shock, rage, and resolve that he initially exhibited in response. The reality of his situation started to sink in, despite the fact that he presented himself as tough. It was claimed by sources close to the rapper that he spent his first few nights in a state of bewilderment, unable to come to terms with the loss of his freedom, as well as the impact it had on his family and profession. Both the general population and the media have had a variety of responses to Casanova's guilty plea. While there are followers who are dissatisfied with the rapper and who show their support for him, there are other fans who denounce his activities and the detrimental influence they have had on his community. The media has provided a substantial amount of coverage, including comments about the more general problems of criminal activity in the music industry, as well as the responsibilities of musicians as role models, making adjustments to life in prison. As the days grew into weeks, and the weeks turned into months, Casanova started to adjust to the harsh reality of life behind bars. The unwritten norms of the prison system were rapidly grasped by him, despite the fact that he was known for his street smarts and his resilience. He devised a schedule that includes reading, writing music, and engaging in physical exercise throughout the day. There was a certain degree of respect that he received from his fellow inmates as a result of his famous status. Nevertheless, it also made him a target for other individuals who were eager to distinguish themselves. Struggles related to the mind and emotions. There have been major mental and emotional problems that Casanova has had during his time spent in prison. He wrote letters to his family and friends in which he expressed his feelings of loneliness, depression, and remorse. The bleakness of his surroundings, the loss of his career, and the separation from his loved ones all weighed heavily on him. He was also separated from his loved ones. Additionally, he had to contend with the difficulty of preserving his sanity in the face of an atmosphere that frequently appeared to be geared to bring him down. Casanova's insane reaction to the event that will live long in the memory. Casanova's mental and emotional turmoil reached a breaking point nearly a year after his imprisonment, resulting in an unforgettable occurrence that would be the talk of the prison and the outside world. This event would serve as the catalyst for Casanova's release from jail. Casanova was involved in a dispute with a group of inmates on the anniversary of his sentencing. The incident took place during a typical day in the prison yard. In a short amount of time, what began as a verbal altercation swiftly turned into a physical altercation. Witnesses referred to Casanova's reaction as insane, describing it as such since the rapper displayed a degree of aggressiveness and desperation that was both surprising and memorable. He fought off many attacks with a passion that appeared to be motivated by a year's worth of pent-up wrath and frustration. He was able to successfully defend himself. A number of detainees sustained injuries as a consequence of the incident, which led to Casanova being placed in solitary confinement conditions. Confinement in solitary confinement. A crucial moment. Casanova's life took a significant turn after the fight, when he was placed in solitary confinement for a period of time. Because he was separated from the other inmates, he had a lot of time to think about his actions, the decisions he made in his life, and the future he had in store for himself. It was the seclusion that compelled him to face his inner demons and reassess the things that were most important to him. He started keeping a notebook in which he recorded his thoughts, feelings, and experiences during this time period. He began writing frequently during this time, the process of self-improvement and rehabilitation. Because of his time spent in isolation, Casanova emerged from his confinement with a rekindled sense of purpose. He participated in a variety of rehabilitation programs that were made available by the correctional facility. These programs included programs for anger management, counseling for substance misuse, and educational classes. In addition, he restarted his musical endeavors, employing music as a therapeutic avenue to work through his feelings and establish a connection with his inner self. Influence on the family and those who support it. It is clear that Casanova's family and supporters have been profoundly affected by his confinement and his response to the conditions of prison life. His fiancée, Jazzy, has been a rock of support for him, as she has been making frequent visits to him and lobbying for his health and happiness. In addition, she has been very vocal on social media, where she has been providing fans with updates on Casanova's status and mobilizing their support. Casanova's children, despite their young age, have experienced the absence of their father, which has prompted him to concentrate on becoming a more positive example for them, despite the circumstances in which he finds himself. Message from Casanova, delivered from behind bars. The powerful message that Casanova has been trying to express from behind bars has been communicated through letters, phone calls, and infrequent interviews. He discusses the hard reality of life in jail, the significance of making better decisions, the benefits of building resilience and improving oneself, and the importance of making better choices. A great number of individuals, particularly young people who look up to him as a role model, find his comments to be profoundly meaningful. The dual identity of a rapper and gang leader, that is the case of Casanova. It has also been determined that he is a U.S. It is widely known that attorney Damian Williams was a prominent leader of the notorious untouchable Guerrilla Stone Nation gang. The dual personality of Casanova is investigated in this script, which also examines his rise to prominence in the music industry, his alleged involvement in illegal activities, and the conflicting images that are portrayed by his artistic endeavors and his judicial confrontations. Nationality of the untouchable Guerrilla Stone. Casanova's music career was flourishing at the same time that his suspected affiliation with the untouchable Guerrilla Stone Nation was gaining more and more attention within the music industry. This gang, which conducts the majority of its operations in New York, has been implicated in a wide range of illegal activities, including the distribution of illegal drugs, robbery, and acts of violence. On the basis of U.S. Attorney Damian Williams, Casanova was not only a member of the group, but also a prominent leader within the organization. The U.S. The description provided by Attorney Damian Williams. The United States of America has made public declarations and participated in court processes. When opposed to the image that Casanova creates as a musician, Attorney Damian Williams has constructed a portrait of Casanova that does not even come close to matching up. Williams portrays him as a well-known recording artist who used his popularity and influence to advance the interests of a nasty street gang. Williams says that he did this by using his reputation and influence. This dual status as both a respected rapper and a gang boss underlines the complexity of his identity, as well as the disparity that exists between his private and public lives. The statements made by Damian Williams. In the statements that he made, Damian Williams underlined the gravity of the allegations as well as the alleged part that Casanova played in the group. Williams characterized him as a pivotal player who utilized his position and resources to aid and coordinate illicit actions. It was Williams who described him. The image of Casanova as a successful rapper and public figure stands in stark contrast to this representation of him with his public persona. The influence on the public image of Casanova. Casanova's public image has been significantly altered as a result of the claims and the numerous legal fights following them. Fans and members of the media have been put in the position of having to reconcile the musical persona of the artist with the allegations that he was involved in acts that were both unlawful and violent, both inside the hip-hop culture and among the general public. This dichotomy has provoked a significant amount of debate and examination of a wider nature. Responses from the hip-hop community, both positive and negative. There has been a range of responses from members of the hip-hop scene. Some artists and fans have voiced their support for Casanova, highlighting the importance of distinguishing his artistic work from the allegations that have been made against him. Others have opposed his involvement in criminal acts, stating that his actions weaken the integrity of the genre and contribute to bad misconceptions about hip-hop musicians. His actions have been condemned by several individuals. The influence on the music career of Casanova. The legal troubles that Casanova has been facing have had a huge impact, which has resulted in a significant decline in his career as a musician. The following elements have played a role in this development. The fact that Casanova is currently incarcerated stops him from making new music, performing, or interacting with his fans. Damage to reputation. His public image has been ruined as a result of his affiliation with violent crime and drug trafficking, which has reduced the amount of support he receives from fans and professionals in the industry. Legal bills, fines, and the loss of income from touring and recording sales have all had a negative impact on his financial condition. This has resulted in a number of financial consequences, proceedings, and developments in the legal system. Both the media and the general public have been paying careful attention to the judicial actions that have been brought against Casanova. In May of 2024, he entered a guilty plea to the allegations of racketeering and narcotics distribution, which marked a crucial turning point in the case. Many people interpreted this plea as an admission of guilt, which further complicated his public image and threw a long shadow over his career as a musician. The impact of art on the way people think and feel about things. Casanova's music has always been a reflection of his life experiences, juxtaposing the brutal reality of street life with the glamour of the rap industry. This has been the case since the beginning of his career. Themes such as brutality, struggle, and resilience are frequently depicted in his lyrics, which resonate with a large number of listeners. On the other hand, these same themes have also led to the image that he is a criminal, which is especially interesting when considering the charges that have been brought against him. From the viewpoint of Damian Williams. From the point of view of Damian Williams, Casanova's music and public persona were instruments that were utilized to facilitate the enhancement of his influence inside the gang and to glamorize a life of criminal activity. In his argument, Williams stated that the rapper's celebrity gave the activities of the gang an appearance of legality, which made it simpler to recruit members and carry out unlawful operations. Considerations of a more general nature regarding the hip-hop industry. An expanded discussion regarding the connection between hip-hop and criminal activity has been initiated as a result of the Casanova case. It brings up some very significant points regarding the obligations that musicians have, the impact that their music has on their followers, and the effect that their acts have on the genre as a whole. A number of points that emphasize these consequences are as follows. Artist accountability. The case highlights how important it is for artists to be aware of the associations they have with other people, as well as the potential ethical and legal ramifications that could result from their acts. Record companies and management teams may reevaluate their support for musicians who are known to have associations with illegal activities. This would require them to strike a balance between the attractiveness of authenticity and the requirement for ethical behavior. The genre of hip-hop has long been recognized as a music that accurately portrays the realities of street life, including the presence of criminal activity and violent acts. The failure of Casanova brings to light the importance of maintaining a conversation about the influence that these topics have on artists, as well as the audiences that they serve. The analysis of the law and the sentencing. A complicated legal technique was incorporated into Casanova's plea agreement in order to reduce the severity of his sentence. Despite the fact that he avoided the uncertainty of a trial by entering a guilty plea, he was still subject to harsh fines. When deciding his punishment, the court took into account a number of different aspects, including as the gravity of his offenses, his position within the gang, and any prospective cooperation with law enforcement. What the future holds. Not much is known about what the future holds for Casanova. There are various avenues that he could pursue upon his release, despite the fact that his immediate chances require serving a large amount of time in prison. Redemption and rehabilitation. Casanova may concentrate on rehabilitation, making use of his experiences to teach others about the dangers of gang life and criminal activity. Legal and advocacy work. He may engage in advocacy for the reform of the criminal justice system, building on his own personal experiences to advocate for reforms in the system. Despite the fact that it is highly improbable that Casanova would make a comeback in the music industry in the near future, it is possible that he will seek to accomplish so by utilizing his story of falling from grace and finding forgiveness. A crucial and depressing chapter in Casanova's life has been marked by his guilty plea to federal racketeering and drug charges during the course of his life. The sudden termination of his music career and the severe legal penalties that he is facing serve as a potent reminder of the complexities and hazards that are linked with a life that is entangled in illicit activity. Important questions about accountability, rehabilitation, and the impact that cultural superstars have on their communities are prompted as the music industry and society as a whole struggle to come to terms with the ramifications of his case. The court cases involving Casanova and their timeline. As part of a federal indictment against the untouchable Gorilla Stone Nation, Casanova is taken into custody in the month of December into the year 2020. Casanova enters a plea of not guilty to the initial allegations against him and continues to be held in detention pending his trial. Around the middle of the year 2023, the prosecution provides considerable evidence that links Casanova to the operations of the gang. As of April 2024, Casanova has begun negotiations with federal prosecutors regarding a plea deal. A guilty plea was entered by Casanova on May 12, 2024, in response to federal racketeering and narcotics accusations.